Don't give it up, Zoro.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is Kickback Anime Discussions, the chillest anime podcast on the platform, as always. And this is one of your co hosts here, RTL Faith. And we're talking about anime podcasts in today's episode of Kickback, of course. And to join me to talk about anime podcasts, we needed other anime podcasts. So the first anime podcast we have here is that of GeekEire.
Hey, we've only got it pronounced correctly. GeekEire, yeah.
We got GeekEire, and we have both of their co-hosts. You guys can introduce yourself. Tell them about yourself a little bit.
How's it going? GeekEire podcast. We've been podcasting, for around 7 years now. Since 2013, 2014. The way that I kind of got into sort of anime podcasts is I was just like with you guys with being anime-tubers as well. Like I listened to tons of anime podcasts when I was going to college because before YouTube and back when it was like Google Video.
Mm-hmm.
So like some of these podcasts are still going on and I still listen to some of them and always get sort of a different perspective and different sort of reasoning behind things. And yeah, I sort of wanted to sort of get involved, especially when, I was unemployed trying to find work during the last recession. I know we're heading towards another recession now, so it's always a good time to start doing a podcast or YouTube or whatever it is, whatever creative outlet you have.
Yeah, I get that. What about you, Drew?
I've been podcasting probably maybe 2 years. Not as long as GeekEire. I've only recently joined as a co-host for his podcast because it's his original podcast, but I just happened to show up after stuff happened. I don't feel like talking about it.
You were a guest at one point.
Yes, that's how it sort of started. Like I was a guest on the podcast first, and then stuff happened. But yeah, there's not much else to say there. I used to do another podcast with Pokesel, but unfortunately, he has betrayed me and joined a different podcast.
He went to the dark side. He went to the dark side.
Let me tell you what really happened. Hold on. Let me explain the situation. By the way, we're Weeb Signal, Pokesel and I. So basically, the way that our podcast got started is actually kind of like an interesting story because, like, I think that a lot of podcasts start it's just two people that want to talk about something. But like mine, it was like I get this text from Pokesel. And he's like
$400,000.
So it's Pokel's fault. All right.
So Pokesel texts me. Pokesel texts me, and he goes, "Hey man, my agent. I was talking to my agent. Spotify is reaching out, man. Like $400,000 for exclusivity rights to the podcast. Like, let's make a podcast." I was like, "Oh, sweet, let's do it, man. 400,000." Yeah, and he said, "I'll give you 300,000 since you're so much bigger than me and better, and then I'll just take 100,000." So I was like, "Yeah, that's fine, man. That works." And then he makes me sign all these contracts and everything. And then turns out there was no money at all. So he just tricked me into being on this podcast. So that's how our podcast got started.
Okay. Remember, you can't share the details about the trick here, not getting the money.
He signed a paper. A totally legal document that had no fine print saying that I wasn't actually going to get any money.
Oh,
that's how I got stuck in this one.
That's pretty funny. What's going on, Antonio? What's going on? As you guys could tell, that is our second guest here, the Weeb Signal podcast. They're jumping on the bandwagon of podcasts on the platform.
In all seriousness, like I think we should have a serious intro, kind of to our podcast. It really just started normally. I was looking for two co-hosts. At first, it was going to be between two individuals, and then I met this Tyler guy.
And I'm bipolar, so it just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I just I felt like me and Tyler really like connected as like individuals who like could like spin off each other.
Because you're both backstabbers.
Oh, jeez.
Listen,
only on Total Drama.
Yeah, only on
Total
yeah. Well, I'm
No,
not even.
that's literally what happened in the recording. Literally, me and Tyler had a slight disagreement. He was voted off the island.
Bro, total drama island. I got screwed over.
Bro, I know, RTL. I feel you. I feel you.
I blame
Drew's
Katie.
the only one who's lucky, man.
I blame Katie.
It's just me and Eddie now. It's literally the last two
Unfair.
people that we could get on for that.
See, I think it's just the fact that like I think the reason why I wasn't included is because I'm old enough now to be the host of this. And since
I believe you weren't included.
I'm making my co-host
because-
watch a very bad anime.
Yes, that was actually the real reason why you weren't included, because you made me watch a bad anime.
So I guess
Uh,
like one of the questions that I had for everybody as far as
How's
podcasts
Mad
go-
Bull 34
real quick,
treating you?
real quick, before we
Oh,
get
wait,
into
go ahead.
before we get into the topic in hand, something new that we've been doing for season 3, because it's technically like a season 3. The first 2 are kind of like pilot seasons. Is trending news. I like to talk about some trending
Ooh.
news to start it off, to kind of keep everybody up to
Are we
date.
getting political?
It's any trending news. The first trending news I
Okay,
want to
good.
bring up is obviously the big one. Kiss Anime got shut down.
That's
It was
in the
taken
shame.
down. And so
I know Tyler used them a lot.
what are some people's thoughts about that?
Bro, we lost a titan in the illegal streaming game, bro. That's what I feel.
Man, I always loved Kiss Anime because it was like right after I got done with like a really sad anime, I could see just some Gentai ads to cheer me up.
you could see some hot singles looking for you.
Yeah, it was funny. Someone in a Discord of mine wanted to talk about it. It's like, if you talk about it, we could get banned. Then it's like, really? Like, yeah, it's in Discord's TOS. Like, if you talk about
Bro.
piracy and
Wow.
promoting it, you can get banned, even if you're not linking anything.
That's crazy.
I believe the Discord server got shut down or something.
Oh, I
Yeah,
would imagine.
I think
Yeah.
Twitch has similar rules. The difference is if you're actually streaming it, which we're allowed to talk about it, we just can't stream.
Oh yeah, because we don't support illegal streaming of all these companies. They deserve all the
do.
money that they're getting. I don't associate with Weeb Signal. They're not associated with Kickback.
You see,
Folks was like, me
exactly.
neither.
It just keeps getting worse as this podcast goes on.
Folks was like, me neither. I also don't associate with Weeb Signal.
Yeah, I don't
Hey,
associate
Tyler,
with these things either.
The podcast is gonna have to cut down. I can't
the
associate
podcast
myself
is
with
now
you.
called the Tyler Doe Show. So we have
You
rebranded.
know what? I've been happier with that. That's what actually happened.
Oh jeez. But on a more serious note, Kiss Anime shutting down. It's not really like it doesn't really impact me because I didn't really use the website at all. But what is pretty interesting is like, what if this kind of becomes a trend where a lot of the websites that some people, not us, use to watch their anime and whatnot, and
Yep,
all
bro,
of them
for
start
sure.
getting cut.
It's
shut down.
already
I
happening
totally-
because Japan
I
changed their
totally-
laws.
Mhm.
And like me and Pokesel and like one of our podcasts, we talked about this, and it's like this is
Yeah.
what was gonna happen.
Like it's just a matter of time.
I totally have
like
never
it's literally gonna
pirated
be.
anime.
I bet you by the end of this year, everything's gonna be taken down once they
Wow.
track everything.
I don't know because like it's difficult to do that because like for all you know they could be in like a random country just hosting the website
okay,
using a
fine.
With
VPN.
one
It's
one
anime.
Hydra head,
Yeah. Actually, I agree with Sean. Like, if this is a Hydra situation, then it's probably not gonna end.
Mm.
It's just
I mean,
gonna
it's
get
very
worse
difficult
quality,
to track
though,
everything.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
just
gonna
think
be worse
about
quality for
think
illegal
about
stuff.
like all of these streaming sites over time. It's like it started out Kiss Anime was the premier one, right? It was like, yeah, go to this one, and then that one turned into complete ass, and then you move to the next one, and then that one turned to complete ass, and you move to the next, and that's just how it's been. Like I don't know about y'all, but every time that I've ever used one of those sites, it's been like, yeah, like just keep moving to the next one. But like I think that it's really important. One thing to keep in mind is like
no, there's
the whole reason why
There's
you
always
use sites
going to be
because these
another
streaming
web.
platforms are not
website.
competing at an efficient level, right? Like these streaming platforms need to they need to do more. Like, and I understand it's not like they're like flush with.
And there's
cash,
always
but
ways.
Sean, you're disconnected a
Brown.
little bit.
yeah, Sean, I can't understand. What
Yeah, you can always just spend $70 on one season of anime.
yeah, because like so basically the options right now are either spend way too much money for a season of anime by buying the Blu-ray, or you can do these streaming websites, which depending on the one are very hit or miss for how good they are and what their selection is. Or you can go to these.
We're talking about the
websites.
subscription.
Yeah, or you can go to the streaming websites and illegally stream them, but you have to deal with ads if you're not using ad block, and you also have to realize like now you're not supporting the creators, so you have to kind of keep that in mind as well. So it's kind of like a weird moral question, I guess.
So
I think
one thing I've noticed,
I feel like there's a new trend that's going to happen. I think what we're going to have is streaming sharing that's going to occur in the AniTube community, similar how Disney Plus and HBO Max going with the cartoon community right now. Because in the cartoon community,
I feel like one big thing
that's
though.
what they do.
One at a time now.
Like one person has HBO Max, one has Disney Plus, like one might have Netflix, like one might have Hulu, and they just do it that way.
Yeah,
I feel like that's gonna happen with Crunchyroll and Funimation, because those are only two relevant ones.
Potentially, I feel so. My big opinion when it comes to the whole Kiss anime shutdown is a lot of people are like it feels like there's like one side that's completely pro pirating from the websites and another side that's completely pro using those sites, you know, and there are some people in the middle, but it feels like it's very anti or for, you know. And my opinion on it is you're not going to be supporting the industry if you're going to be using those sites.
Think that's just
but another thing is it gives you accessibility to anime you might have not had before. And because you have the opportunity to see something, and if you really like it, a lot of the times, I think I said this off the podcast, you'll buy the manga of the series or the figurines of the series.
Support them more directly.
Yeah, you'll support them way more than just watching it from a streaming service. Now, it's very conflictable, very controversial, definitely to talk about what to do and what not to do. I mean, I'm gonna say it for real. Most of my anime viewing comes from either Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime, because that's where I go to search for new anime. I don't go to individuals and ask for recommendations. I use those websites to find anime on there. Now, I have seen anime that's not on those websites, but those are my primary viewing sites because it's just easy. I can look Netflix through on my TV with my smart controller
or your phone or something.
I wish there was more competition. I feel like you know, like these illegal websites, like the reason why I don't use them most of the time is because they're more of a hassle than they're worth, right? Like if Netflix has something and then this illegal stream site has this, I'm willing to pay however much Netflix costs a month to watch this anime. It's just worth it to me. But like whenever it comes to like, oh, the only way I can watch this anime is by buying another new subscription service, and I know that it's one of the ones that isn't like top tier. I'm like, no, I'd just rather like buy a t-shirt or something and then watch it online, like, you know, like just legally stream it, because it's just the idea of paying for another service on top of like the 10 that I already paid for, just for it to be like mid-tier quality. Like Funimation's app, we were talking about this before, Funimation's player is like garbage. It's just hot garbage. It's like, you know how bad an app has to be for me to rather get an ad every single time I click the screen than to deal with your player, you know?
Yeah, like also last thing before we move on to the next trending topic is it's not practical a lot of times. Like for example, Vinland Saga, I would say most people would agree 2019 best anime of 2019. But it was only on Amazon Prime. So it's like if you don't have it already, and I don't really, there might be some other anime, but like the only reason why you would get it is just to watch Vinland Saga. It's like it's not the most practical thing if that's not something you already have.
Like if it just has one or two shows that you want.
Yeah, exactly. But
Netflix has its own issue because with Netflix they have all these exclusives, so each one seems like they want to put their own things elsewhere, which makes sense, but it's not affordable.
Yeah,
Netflix, like for someone like myself.
Netflix does something interesting in the sense that it's bringing in unique type of anime, i.e. Jaden Smith had his own anime, and like so it's doing an interesting, I'll say, experiment, but I don't think it's helping its potential as a platform to have anime on its service and how all that.
Yeah, it's kind of discrediting it. It's like, yeah, look at these good shows we have, and then this.
I mean, you're giving it discredit because you're just like, oh, look at the Jane Smith anime, and then you're ignoring Seven Deadly Sins, Castlevania.
I mean, should we talk about Seven Deadly Sins? Like, did you see that animation? That was bad. It was really bad. So it was
that's because they forced and rushed them. Like, that's a completely different scenario. Like, Netflix doesn't know what they're doing with that aspect.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's still on Netflix, so they're gonna get the part of the blame for sure. But moving on to the next trending topic, Avatar: The Last Airbender. So, Avatar: The Last Airbender, if you guys aren't aware, used to have for one, it's a cartoon / anime, whatever you want to consider it. Very popular, very good, and it got a live action adaptation a couple years ago, and it was absolutely garbage. It was bad. It wasn't a good live action adaptation by any means. And they're thinking about doing another live action adaptation, but two people that were a part of it, I don't remember exactly what they did. I don't know if there was writers or anything. I don't really remember.
Bro, they were the creators.
Were the creators. You don't know.
No, I don't.
They were the biggest aspect of this entire thing.
Yeah, so those two people left the entire thing because, from what I saw, they're thinking of making it more mature in the sense like they're adding like mature content, sex, and all that stuff. And I think they were taking out characters as well, right?
No, okay. Here's the thing. I talked to people in Discord about this with some people in the cartoon community, and the realization we came to is like what they were probably using was the script from the movie that they wanted to use that Shyamalan butchered, and they probably wanted to keep that because there was actually good elements if you read their original script. Like that's what they were saving, basically.
I mean, at the end of the day,
what the rumors were.
At the end of the day, no, from what I've seen, that it's becoming more mature and that the creators went out. I mean, just like not like it reminds me of like the Teen Titans
I'm more
situation.
excited for the live action One Piece that Netflix is getting out. To be honest, like
dude,
I don't care about the Avatar.
I don't understand why they
anymore.
keep trying to make these live action adaptations. Like, why even mess with something like that? You know, like especially like Avatar. There's no way you can translate that properly to live action. Like, it's just unless you're gonna spend like $1 billion and just give complete creative freedom to the creators and like make sure that you're following their wishes. That's about the only way that I can imagine it going right.
Despite how bad Death Note did, it still made money.
Oh yeah,
that's the thing.
How much money did it make?
Hard to tell.
We don't know because it's streaming. Yeah, that's the point. Like they got enough viewership because people hate watched it and they're getting a sequel.
Yeah, but to be fair, like people who didn't watch the Death Note anime and watch the Death Note movie probably thought it was all right. You know.
No, I mean, it was all right. Like
I know that like some people though, they watch the movie and they're like, oh yeah, I've seen Death Note, I've seen the movie, and I'm like, you have no idea. Like you know, my girlfriend's sister told me that.
Oh
there is only one good live action, and that is the Japanese Death Note.
I mean, the Japanese always stay more adherent to their own source material better than Americans do.
No, yeah, my girlfriend's sister literally goes, I go, have you seen Death Note? And she goes, yeah, I've seen it. And I was like, oh, well, did you like it? Like, I can't believe you've seen this and you haven't talked to me about it. And she's like, I mean, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't that good. And then she said something like, Matt Wolf was. I go, whoa. Wow, we're talking about something completely different. You're talking about a mid-tier movie, mid-tier to shit-tier movie, and I'm talking about one of the best anime that I've ever seen. Like, two very different things.
It's crazy, bro. But yeah, I agree. At the end of the day, a lot of these live actions, especially when it's made from the Western culture, hasn't been up to par. And the ones that are like have a lot of abilities, fantastical abilities, like Avatar, Dragon Ball Z, obviously they're gonna be much harder. So at the very least, pick a more doable series, like
Toradora.
I mean, Cowboy Bebop was what I had in mind. But
your name is being adapted into a live-action movie.
Cowboy Bebop's actually happening. Netflix is doing one for that.
Don't bring up your name.
Bro, your name, the greatest anime movie of all time. That'd be
Shut up, Tyler. I will beat you.
That's being made. That's being remade for the West.
Your name. I mean, I can see for a lot of these romance series, I feel like it would be very much easier to do something like that. Like all you got to do is follow the script. Come on.
True.
I feel like Your Lie in April would be a good one to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
But,
like I would pick that.
I think
if I was a director.
I don't think all live action adaptations have been completely terrible. I think most of the Netflix ones have been bad.
But I just think it's sad because, like, literally, if you were to do a ratio just off the top of my head, it's like probably 8 or 9 out of 10 suck. And so it's like, why are you like tarnishing the reputation of these shows? Like, stop doing this. Just like, if you really want more Toradora, make another season. You know, don't freaking adapt this to. Don't ruin my love for Toradora by making it into a live action thing. You know.
But like, for example, I thought that the Bleach live action wasn't that bad.
I mean,
that was fairly bad.
The ones that are made in like the Eastern countries definitely have better hope than the ones that are made in the West.
But then, folks, so listen to your verbiage you just used. Wasn't that bad? You didn't say it was. You said it wasn't that bad.
Gintama live action. It was on top.
Bad. What I mean is, wasn't that bad? Was bad means
like Shinibio.
Your rating system's so confusing. You explained on Twitter once. It made no sense to me.
I thought that my rating system makes perfect sense, but that's just
no, it does not. Like you started
like 6 out of 10 means okay, in my opinion.
This is the way you should look at it. It should be out of a 10 scale. This is objectively the way that everybody should rate everything. It should be out of 10 scale, 5 being 100% average.
Yeah, that's why.
0 being garbage.
That's what Tyler's turned into with this channel.
So,
I've been watching his stuff, and he's like, "You better listen to my opinion, or else."
Or you're
that's
wrong.
how I do my rankings for sure.
So he's become a Mel user.
All right.
Yeah.
That's what
Anyway. So
the thing is 5 out of 10 should always mean average, in my opinion.
I agree. But we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about the topic in hand now. Let's talk about anime podcasts. Those are the two trendy topics that we talked about. It's gonna be interesting how both of them kind of evolve over time. But what are we here to do? We're here to talk about anime podcasts. All three of us have a podcast. All three groups here have a podcast. I mean, and Tyler, I know you wanted to ask a question. I don't really have anything prepared. I just go for the flow. So if you got a question, go for it.
You know, if I'm being 100% honest, RTL, I was trying to sway the conversation towards the topic at hand, and I had no question prepared, and I was just going to make something up as I was talking. So let me go ahead and do that again. I guess like my first question that I would have for everybody else, just because I think this is one of the parts of podcasting that people don't really think about that much, is what is y'all's process as far as coming up with ideas? Like, so for example, Pokesel and I were just like sitting there talking, and we had just finished recording our first one, I believe, or maybe we hadn't even recorded our first one. But either way, we were just in a Discord call, and we just spent like an hour and a half. Every single idea we thought of, we wrote down, and then we'd go back and delete all the shitty ones, and then that's how we did it. But how do you guys do it?
So for like GeekEire, a lot of this is sort of like it could be sort of talking about the news, and and a lot of time, there's especially like nowadays, it's a lot of depressing news. Like I had to sort of like, or we had to go into like anime discussion because a lot of anime news is like, well, there's been at least 5 voice actors, both in Japan and over in the West, that have died now of COVID.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's really depressing. So I went into more of a conversational thing, getting people to review like old anime they've never seen before, getting people's first reactions, especially like, with the younger generation. That's why like I've had you, Tyler, on the podcast before talking about the mystery of D.
Younger, LOL.
Well, that's a dynamic me and Sean provide for a podcast, because he's having me watch stuff that I haven't seen. I have him watch stuff that he hasn't seen, so that's how it works basically.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like about podcasting in general is I like to get
all those shows that I actually got into people into.
Yeah, because Pokesel and I have such a different viewpoint on so many things that I find it so fascinating to talk to him about stuff. Like just we have such different opinions on almost everything. Like name something and we have a different opinion on it than each other, except for Toradora. But other than that, we pretty much have a different opinion on everything.
We have a different opinion on Toradora. Like the Toradora ending, we both disagree with.
Yeah, I guess there's aspects of it, but we both objectively think that it's good. But yeah, I think that one of the things that makes it easy for us to think of topics is because we disagree on so much that like it's just really easy. Like, we talk about stuff off the podcast so much that I'm like, hey, remember whenever we were having this conversation about this? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, that's a podcast. And we're like, okay. Do you guys do the thing? Do you guys do the thing where you kind of don't talk to each other about stuff on purpose so that you can like talk about it on the podcast? I've been doing that with Pokesol a lot lately. Like
Yeah.
I'll be like, all right, I want
Like-
to call Pokesol and talk about this, but I'm like, oh no, I should save
Like
that.
me and Sean, usually for the first 10 to 20 minutes, we talk a bit about what we're supposed to, and then we get into the actual podcast.
That's
Yeah.
Classic.
But we usually are on the call for like 30 minutes before we actually start recording.
Yeah. Do you guys have you guys recorded one and then deleted it yet?
I've done it once for me.
Or because like I've
the-
had a guest that like
Well, I've done it once for me.
called me inbred before recording.
Oh yeah, that was a story.
Yeah, that doesn't
Bro.
Oh,
seem
man.
like a pretty pleasant
wild.
guest, but by any means. But
I
real-
had to delete one because half of the audio was gone with the podcast that had Pokesol and depressed. So I was
Oh,
like,
God.
well, I can't really release this. So
Yeah, so like
I had to get rid of it.
Pokesol I deleted
Tyler,
one time because we started talking about something which
We
I won't
agreed.
name.
We
Yeah,
agreed.
that was
Not
the problem
everything.
actually. Oh my god, yeah, that was why it didn't work. Is that we were just literally just like in a circle of agreeing. Like it was just like an echo chamber. He'd be like, you know what, I think that this happens too much. I'd be like, yeah, I think that happens too much too. And it was just the least entertaining thing you've ever listened to.
so
and
it
so-
seemed like there wasn't a lot of discussion.
Bro, I'm telling you, we got to 30 minutes and
It
Pokesol was like
just
about to
either
start a new
him
point.
saying yes. or
Yeah,
me saying
yeah.
yes.
And then Pokesol got to a new point, and I go, "Hey, let's just delete all of that." Like, I hated that. That was so boring. I'm like, I was literally sitting here barely awake during that, so I don't know how anybody else is gonna watch it. Let's re-record something else.
So the thing is, I don't even think it was like super that bad. Like I agree
Yeah, it
with a
wasn't.
lot of the stuff in it, but like in comparison to our first and second episode, which I usually am down on the stuff I create, but I will genuinely say that the first and second episode of the podcast were phenomenal.
Yeah, they were fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that other one wasn't that fun for me, so I was just like,
yeah,
it's just not too
real
good.
quick. Squid just said, "Listen up, stinky boys. Uvugen beat the Shadow Beast while sitting down using only his mouth." Don't know why he said that, but he did say that. So that's pretty interesting.
Squid, I love you.
I do want to address like your other questions, Tyler, on my end for a kickback. I kind of approach it in two ways when it comes to the idea creation process. First, I just create an idea and go for it. I mean, I don't really think about it too hard. I think it's either a discussion idea or a debate idea.
Yeah.
Example, talk about podcasts or tournament bracket of et cetera, et cetera. So it's like one or the other, and I do have to like imagine it in my mind. Is it going to be an interesting discussion? Is it going to be an interesting debate? Like if we did something about some this who's the best, et cetera, and we all know who's the best, and it's not going to be like a real debate.
Yeah.
We know who's going to win, then I'm not going to do it, for example.
True.
And the other thing is, another part of it is it's guest dependent. Like when Geek hit me up and saying, "Yo, you want to do the podcast thing, podcast collab stuff?" And like I was like, "Sure." So we'll have him next, and I didn't have an idea yet, so I was like, "You know what? We'll have Geek here, and we'll invite Pokesol and Tyler because Pokesol hasn't been on the new season yet, and we'll have 3 podcasts talking about podcasts. I think that would work." And that's another way at develop ideas. So it's kind of a mixture.
So you're more of like a I have this idea, let's do it kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I have pretty good ideas. You know what I'm saying?
From time to time. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I it's weird because you can go either way with that. Like, I don't know. Sometimes Pokes and I will have an idea and we'll write it out, and it's one of the ideas that we're going with. And then within the first 10 minutes, we have completely gotten off of that and we're doing something completely different. And those are the best ones to me.
Like in episode 2, for example, the whole idea was getting people into anime.
Oh, yeah.
The episode, the episode was an hour long. And I think we talked about getting people into anime for like maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And 40 minutes of that episode was us debating over which movie was better, Your Name or Silent Voice. Which, speaking of, which one would you guys say is better?
Everybody say Your Name.
Everybody say
Akira.
Silent Voice.
I never watched either, so I don't know.
Bro, RTL, you have let me
RTL,
down so many times today.
RTL, I'll give you $1 if you say a Silent Voice.
RTL, $2.
Oh, that's tough. Which one was yours, Tyler?
Your Name.
I'll give you 3.
My one isn't romance. Pick
I'm
Akira.
not gonna give you 3. I'm not gonna give you.
I pick Dragon Ball Super Broly, best anime movie.
Okay,
of all
respectable.
time.
Respectable.
Hands down a classic.
Not the best of all time, but it's the best.
And the Dragon Ball community just got a boner that day.
Dragon Ball Super Broly was super entertaining.
Bro, whenever I watched it, did you see it in theaters?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately.
Oh my god, bro, it was so hype in theaters. Oh my god, dude. I just remember like literally because you got to realize everybody who's going to see Dragon Ball Super Broly is an anime fan. You know, like they're all weebs. You're not there because you're like, you know, oh, I just want to see a movie and I just pick. No, you're there because you want to watch Dragon Ball Super Broly. And so everybody who's there, whenever the hype shit is happening, they're like throwing their popcorn in the air. Oh yeah, holy shit.
See,
yeah.
they're weebs, but they're in the closet weebs. Like there's like Trash Taste podcast said this before. It's like Dragon Ball fans are like they try to make their own category of people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I will say that like the Dragon Ball movie that I went and saw in theater versus the One Piece movie I went and saw in theater, the One Piece people were all like cosplaying. It was way more extreme, but the Dragon Ball people were just kind of like showing up with t-shirts, like just looking like normal people. And then whenever they get in the theater, they're all hyped because they know they're around like just other Dragon Ball fans. But dude, that movie was so hyped. The soundtrack,
bro,
so
when
crazy
Vegeta went Super Saiyan,
bro,
God normal version, I was like, oh
seeing that in theaters was crazy. You would have loved it, dude.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't like Dragon Ball.
Not even the Broly movie?
This is one of Pokesol's
Never
worst.
watched it.
Oh
no, Dragon Ball is overrated to like the 30th.
I mean, nobody thinks it's like, well, the people with taste don't think it's like the best anime of all time.
Yeah, definitely not. But Pokesol is
Tyler's video top 10 anime of all time, number 1.
First of all, you didn't watch it because it was top 7. And second of all, I made that video one whenever I was less cultured, and two because I was talking about like I said this in the video. I was like 99% of this reason is because I have such unbridled nostalgia for Dragon Ball. Like it's literally just because of the nostalgia factor alone. Like I literally was very clear. I'm like, if we're looking at this objectively, not on this list. If we're looking at this subjectively and bringing in all of the nostalgia I have for the Dragon Ball series as a whole, it's got to be up there pretty high.
All right. So real quick, everybody, I'll let everybody kind of say their own piece about this real quick. What would you say is a positive / benefit of having an anime podcast? I'll let Pokesol, you can go first.
I'm gonna be honest, there's not as many benefits as people think.
Name one.
Because, well, like, I think the only true benefit is that it's, well, at least at a small stage, that's fun. I mean, as like an anime YouTuber, and I think I can say this for, I don't know what your guys' opinion on this would be, but not only does it really honestly not help my channel out through growth in like pretty much any form, it just because the only people that go to it are fans of me and Tyler's channels, if that makes sense.
So there's only like 3.
Yeah. But like not only am I getting no growth out of it, it's taking time away from my own channel or being on somebody else's channel.
Yeah.
Like in a collaboration.
We'll talk
collaborating
about
with other
negatives in a
YouTubers
second. Just
give me
try to be a little bit more positive for yourself.
So like I think the main
that sounds really bad.
Right? Like I was like,
No,
let's try to get some positive
to be fair, I totally agree with Pokesol. Like it's like there is no real benefit to it other than it's fun, but that's a huge benefit. I think that like the best benefit is that it's fun. It's like we're having fun, we're hanging out together, we're talking about stuff that we like, but there are a lot of negatives that unless you're just lying to yourself and you don't want to like bring these up, there are a lot of negatives like, hey, we are spending 3 hours here and there talking about this, recording it, when we could be doing other things.
Yeah,
that would be more beneficial.
I'm gonna ask a question about the negatives as well, but we want people to feel happy. Like, oh, I'm thinking about watching an anime podcast. I was like, oh no, they suck. So
I'm gonna disagree.
All right, go for it. You're the seasoned vet.
All right, so like for me, one of the best things about it, two of the best things about it is actually sort of mixing with sort of different people. But the amount of different people I've met over the years, like actually sitting down and talking with like Tiffany Grant, the voice of Asuka from Neon Genesis, to Spike Spencer from who's also Neon Genesis, to the guy who's like a hip hop artist in LA who's like My Hero Academia fan who stopped a machete attack. he stopped a machete attack in a Starbucks.
What the hell?
To the libertarian candidate of America that was using anime memes.
Oh yeah, I was on that episode.
Like that was like just actually, talking to these people is just an amazing occurrence, and getting those sort of life stories and getting the sort of thing and actually opening up your own mind to that type of thing. The other thing as well is just the fact of like, as as a podcaster, I actually give like panels in front of like 300 plus people at a convention, like in person, showing like the weirdest ass anime clips or whatever it is. And the amount of satisfaction is like probably 100 times more than you can probably get with you have like 10,000 views on a YouTube video, because you're seeing people's reactions in real life.
Yeah.
And me passing down the information and the love and interest that I have in anime, the same thing that I had before. And I encourage everyone to, do panels at a convention at some point, whether it's at an online convention, whether it's going to be the future, or your local anime convention. I always, encourage people, and getting that satisfaction of standing up in front of like 300 people and getting people to have like a round of applause, or you'll have like 5 people say that they're triggered and walked out of the place, and then you show a random clip of like some girls doing a pellet gun club anime clip. It's just like, all right, that brings us to our next topic here. For that experience alone pays so much, and the amount of satisfaction you get off of it is just amazing.
Yeah, it definitely sounds great. Drew, you got something?
Yeah, so as a content creator, doing this for about 7 years now, like podcasting actually lets you understand who you are as a content creator, because I have canceled probably within 10 different podcasts over my time as a channel. Like, I would say GeekEire is the longest one next to my other podcasts I've been on. That's the longest ongoing one I've been reoccurring, basically.
Okay.
Wait, what's the positive thing that you like?
I think the important thing is like find what you actually like. Like, there is one podcast I'm actually going to reboot because I actually really liked it, and that was the idea of what if 4 kids dubbed blank. So basically, I get like 3 different.
I love that.
On 3 different guests. We pick a show that 4 kids would never dub, like Death Note, and we purposely have to explain how 4 kids would have to pitch this.
I love that idea.
Yeah, that sounds like a
so
great
funny.
idea.
If you want to be on it, Tyler, I'll let you know.
Bro, hit me
I'm
up.
getting one set up because this is gonna be like a once a month thing I'm gonna be doing, because
that would be so
really
funny.
enjoying this concept.
Have you ever seen? Someone did actually a trailer of what if 4 kids did Magica Modica.
Oh God.
They did one for as well, and that's what gave me the idea. It's like, all right, how would the actual show go down? Like, how would I have to pitch everything?
Speaking of like ideas earlier, sorry to get back to that, but Drew is the best idea guy I've ever met in my life. Like, he's such a good idea guy, man. He just has the ideas on deck, man. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. He's definitely a good idea, man. I can vouch for that for sure. But to kind of wrap up like the positive we've heard so far, like obviously it's fun. I mean, we all talked about it. It's fun to have a, hour long, sub-hour, a little bit more than an hour discussion about different topics. Yeah, in our case, it would be anime. So obviously the fun aspect is great. And I very much agree with what Geek was saying in the sense that it's a very good opportunity to meet people and network compared to, like, I have people come on my channel and whatnot, but a lot of my content's like, there's not a lot of things that are like what's the best way to, not a lot of things on my channel when it comes to my videos that I want to do like a lot of collaborations with. But for podcasts, you can have a new guest, new person come on literally every single week, which is what we do here in Kickback.
And it stays fresh.
Yeah, and it stays fresh. You meet new person, you get to know the person because you're talking about something you both have an interest in, and it's either A, you're cool and there's someone you can hit up later, or or they hate you and it just ends up bad, or
which is still entertaining.
which is still very entertaining. Or the last thing is you guys become friends, which I think pretty much every guest we have on Kickback, I still have a good relationship with. So, and then the last thing that which was a pretty big point is that it gives you the opportunity to do a lot of things that you wouldn't do on your own channel, like what
True.
Drew said. Do 4Kids, do the 4Kids thing, or just talk about something you usually don't talk about on your channel.
Yeah, and isn't it fun just to like have an excuse to have a completely long form thing? Like I feel like
Yeah.
all of our YouTube videos are kind of they're not long form, right? Like the longest one might be 15 or 20 minutes, but like it's nice just to be able to sit there and talk for 45 minutes to an hour and it not be like looked down upon. It's like, yeah, it's a podcast, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, listen, you go on a long hour drive, pop in the podcast.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah.
But yeah, there are definitely positives, but there are also negatives. So let's get dark.
Pokesel and I are the dark ones here, so we might want to start it out.
Well, like I want to kind of go back to the point that GeekEire made with like the whole meeting new people, and while I still somewhat agree with that, especially because how I met certain people was because of my past podcast, the Anime Academy. I would have been able to meet those people other times. Like I didn't, like for example, I never met the people that follow me today because of that podcast, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think also Pokesel, like I think he specifically, if you've ever listened to his podcast, he does he reaches out to people that he doesn't know, right? Like that's like part of the fun with his podcast is it's like
at the same time I've done that before, but like it works almost as well with just normal YouTube videos. Like for example, when I did the Jeopardy thing, I reach out to people I barely know. Like I've only spoken to Spooky one time. He didn't follow me because of the whole the podcast we did together. He followed me because I think the chess tournament he saw, and then when Jordan was talking, he checked the board thingy because I tweeted it out, and then he followed me there. And because of that, I was able to message people like Too Spooky, ask him to be on to the Jeopardy for Bleach. Oh yeah, spoiler alert: the next Jeopardy's Bleach. It's being worked on.
Yeah.
And then also for the first Jeopardy game, those people had already followed me like before the podcast at some points. So like it's more like my first time talking to them sure was the podcast, but like they wouldn't have said no if it wasn't the podcast.
But I think his point was not that it's the only way to meet people, but I think the opportunity to meet people, especially in my opinion, is a lot more. It's a lot easier in a sense. Because, like, when you're asking someone to come for a collab video, you have that. It has to be a specific topic adherence to the person. But when it comes to podcast topics, you can literally talk about anything, and anybody would, like, come on. And I feel like, from what I've seen so far, it's easier to say, hey, do you want to talk about this general topic on this podcast for a little bit, have a chat, rather than we want to come on this specific video and you have to follow these parameters.
You're very structured and it's short term.
So. Yeah, it's not really like a journal. It's not talking. It's like we're doing a video.
When I think of it in that aspect, though, I still view that as part of the having fun aspect, is meeting those people.
Yeah.
In all forward, I think that at least the Weeb Signal podcast, and well, especially the Anime Academy podcast, it's more we do it because it's fun. Like, I don't think we do it for any benefit to our channels.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Because all of our growth on the podcast doesn't come from any new areas. It comes from our channels. And honestly, I view the podcast almost like not working in any aspect, whereas like making a YouTube video, and sometimes it is in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like it feels like you're doing something for the purpose of like growth, whereas on the podcast we're always just like da 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 da. We're doing the
just
podcast.
Having a fun little chat, yeah.
Yeah, which I think is a huge benefit. But when it comes to like growing your fan base or becoming a bigger content creator, or any aspect, especially in if you have like a weekly upload schedule, a podcast takes away a lot. Like there is negatives to having your own podcast.
Oh yeah,
it takes a lot of your time. It can take a lot of stuff from you, especially. And I know relationships have ended
Exactly.
because of a pod.
I had to
because of
sell my
podcasts.
soul to Pokesel just to do this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, my last podcast, me and Pokesel, it didn't
now-
work out.
Yeah.
It just fell apart.
If you learned anything from this episode of Kickback, is that Pokesell's a demon.
Dude, he
Yeah,
is,
apparently so.
I mean, literally, he cheats me out of $400,000, and then he steals my soul. Like, what the hell, man?
Jesus. But I will say this, and there are situations where having a podcast was beneficial. Having your own podcast is one thing, but group podcast is really where the fun is really at. For example, like, especially when you're a podcast and you're working with other creators, you kind of mesh your fan bases. So they get to learn who you are from the other people.
I disagree because
I mean, there's
what
a good
can happen
example
is that
of
you
it.
could. What do you mean?
Like in the Rant Cafe, like there's Nux's fan base, Animax fan base, and then Break's fan base, and then when they started the Rant Cafe, everybody got to know more of each other, much more, from their Rant Cafe. Especially, let's say you already knew Nux, but you didn't know Briggs and Animac. You see the podcast, you go like, oh, I like Briggs, oh, I like Animac. They got interesting personalities. Let me check out their channel, stuff like that.
But then sometimes like friendships can end.
Yeah, that's what I'm meaning.
It's because of the podcast.
That's what I mean.
Like I have lost friends before who have
Like me.
Like I've been on podcasts that I've stopped communicating with people entirely
Like me.
because of a okay, it's not. I mean, in a serious sense, not really.
Yeah,
this is not really Kickback
Roll
anime
through our
discussions.
DMs right now.
This is
Me
not
and
really.
it's not like we talked before though either. Like it's just we just didn't talk.
Hey, this is not really Kickback
Is it
anime
getting hot in here,
discussions.
guys?
This is called Drama Alert Anime Style. This is the new podcast I'm starting, Drama Alert. This is all fun. I just wanted drama on this channel. That's all.
Let's get right into the news.
Hey, there we go. That's our intro.
But I think that you can end and it can become a very toxic atmosphere.
It's strange
In
though.
all
Like
seriousness, it was me who ended the podcast. People don't take it seriously.
True, you piece of shit.
Oh,
No.
hey.
Drew's sitting here like, yeah, Pokesell's such a bad person. Then he's like, yeah, it was actually me who ended it.
I'm gonna cut out. I'm gonna cut out that thing Drew said so we can just keep up this.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Yeah. Everybody act like Drew didn't just say that. God,
Yeah, he didn't
Pokesel,
say
what
that.
the hell is wrong with you, Pokesel?
Jesus
Dude, I'm
Christ.
starting to think I might
Hey,
want to stop this
listen,
podcast with you right now.
I'm trying to be like Genichimaru. I want to be a snake.
You
already
already are a
Well,
snake.
yeah,
You're
you're already a
Tyler.
snake. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yo,
Well, now,
Zaxi just said something for the Weeb Signal podcast.
What did he say?
He said, yeah, but take in consideration something like Weeb Signal where Tyler carries all the clout.
Excuse me, I'll have
I'm
you know
saying-
Tyler's
I'm
only
saying
on
Tyler
the
is far
podcast
more
because he
clout
wants
than
to
Voxel.
steal my clout.
To be
Tyler's
fair,
only on the
at the-
podcast.
At the beginning of one of our podcasts, like not too recently, I've said this in multiple forums now, but there was this point where Pokes and I were about to start recording, and he was like, "Oh, you should record us like a little acoustic intro song real fast." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's do that." And so we start out, and literally so quickly it divulged from like Weeb Signal, check us out, to like, I'm only doing this podcast to steal Pokesell's clout. I'm not doing this for fun. I actually hate this guy. Like that's what it turned into so quickly.
Oh my god! But
Like it was so bad that we just deleted it.
Oh
that's
no,
funny.
like that's minor toxicity. It was toxic.
Oh yeah, I can't even say what I was saying. Like,
Hey,
not
but
good.
We did bring up a pretty important point that everybody should be aware of, is that when you're in like a group podcast, there is the possibility that relationships will end, and there's a possibility that the working relationship will end badly, because a lot of these group anime podcasts, they started up because they're friends or they're peers, and from the surface level, from what they know, they're a good guy or a good girl or something like that, and then they start working with them, and then something happens and they realize they have a different perspective about them, and then it can end bad. Now, in my situation, I've never had that so far. but it is a
I have.
possibility for sure. So it's like
but there's also it can hurt your relationship in other ways too. Like it doesn't just necessarily hurt it
Like
in
my
the
marriage.
sense as like what I mean is like for example, me and Tyler. Like I'm not saying this is
You're
necessarily
married? Congratulations.
Tyler, I'm gonna tell your girlfriend, bro.
Bro, no, please. What do you gain?
Plus, Poxel's like
It's okay.
a minor, bro.
Tyler's
minor.
Tyler's
Tyler,
been
so
renting his girlfriend. Tyler's renting his girlfriend.
Yeah, I rent
so
my
it's
girlfriend
okay.
anyway. So
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Where's
Hey, Tyler. This is not Japan, you know?
Anyway, what I was trying to say is one big thing that has made me a little bit more upset when it comes to the Weeb Signal podcast is I love those hours, but like now that's like the only hour I talk to Tyler on voice call every week. Like you understand? Me and Tyler used to be like in calls with each other. It was me, him, or him and Dono, or me, him, and Dono in a call for like 2 to 3 hours a day.
To be fair, I have been like kind of I don't know. I've just been out of the game as far as Discord goes recently. Like I just haven't had time to be on call with anybody. So it's not even really that we do the podcast together. Like there are specific times where I'm like, oh, I really want to talk to folks about this, but I'm going to save it for the podcast. But I'd say that's far and few between. It's mostly just like I just don't have time anymore. Yeah, I'd say like it's weird though when you do a podcast with somebody and it fails. It's kind of awkward to like continue the friendship after that. Like
you have experience, Tyler.
But it's just like I don't
know.
How
much can I run this joke to the ground?
Yeah, I know. Drew, like literally one of us will be like, "You guys ever tried apple pie?" And he's like, Pokesel probably loves apple pie, but I wouldn't know. He doesn't talk to me anymore.
No running.
He hasn't talked to me for a month, so yeah. That's
this is one of those opportunities where I can record the clip, put it on Twitter, and everybody will think Poksel's a demon now.
Do it.
They're gonna make an anime about him. No, yeah, like it's weird. I know. I also feel like sometimes like you can just come off so wrong whenever you're just like, for example, whenever Drew and I were doing our first like anything together, he was on me and Eddie's old podcast, and there was this one moment where Drew said, and now that I know Drew as a person, I'm like, oh, he was not trying to be combative in this moment. But I took it as combative, and there was a split second where I was about to start freaking out. Thank God I didn't, because I would have looked like such an asshole. Like, it would have been like, why'd you just go off on this guy? He was just talking to you, and you flipped out on him. But for some reason, like, just not knowing him and, like, me not really talking to people online that much, I just didn't know if he was being combative or not. And so, like, that kind of stuff can happen on podcasts sometimes where, like, you'll think somebody's being very serious, but they're not, you know?
I'm just a very interesting character when people talk to me. If you don't know who I am,
it's so funny.
Really hard.
It's so funny because now whenever I look back at that, I'm like, dude, why'd you take that so seriously? Like, I look back at that and I'm like, what were you doing? Like, it's just Drew, chill out. Like, why are you acting like that? But in the moment, I didn't really know you that well, and I was like, what the hell?
I mean, my first time I met Drew was very similar. Like, me and Drew had a disagreement before, so it's like, but me and Drew are cool now. So it's like, when you first meet someone and you don't know like what type of person they are, you always have to kind of be on your toes to make sure like it doesn't. You don't.
Me and Pokesel, like it took me a while to learn from him because, you know, like
my first time contacting you was like the weirdest because I knew who you were from Eddie and Tyler because I watched that podcast. But like it was awkward. Like I'm not gonna go into super detail, but it was a very awkward moment because there was some drama between somebody else who was in the call, not saying who, and I had no idea
this is drama anime style, bro.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Get into the news. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do it. I'm just kidding.
I'm not kidding. But I had no idea that this drama had taken place.
This happened randomly because this person happened to join this Discord and I knew what they did, so it's like I don't want people to get hurt if they collab with him, so it's like I have to go out. It's like I felt really bad, but I just had to. I don't do that often.
Like I had no idea what was going on, and that was like the most awkward like meeting of What If ever. And then we did a podcast together. It only lasted like 3 episodes, but
There's only two that are public, but the third one just failed because, like I explained earlier, the audio was lost halfway.
Because we hate each other. That's why. That's
all right. One thing,
No.
Zaxi just put on some juicy news in the chat.
No, don't read about that.
Zaxi.
One thing I want to say first.
It's not a secret that we hate you, Sexy. That's what he wants to say.
There's two situations with Tyler that were similar to this. The first one we talked about in that first episode of the podcast. It was when he first contacted me. He sounded like a clout chase. I didn't know who he was at that time, and then the second point, I knew who he was, and luckily I did, because if I didn't know that I'm not gonna say because it was bad. It was, and Tyler, you know what I'm talking about.
Frankly, I don't. And I don't want you to say it out loud.
I'm not but, like, I knew Tyler wouldn't be saying something like that.
He said some naughty words.
But
oh, jeez.
He said some Cards Against Humanity words. He's gonna regret it once they leak.
I knew he didn't play that.
But he misconveyed his point.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now.
It was bad. It was bad. Like, I was sitting there in the call, like,
I remember Foxel goes, like, he lets me finish my point. He goes, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut all of that out. He's like, I can't believe you just said that out loud.
Damn, Tyler says something controversial. Jesus.
Bro, I always say controversial shit. This is nothing new.
No, but the thing is, I didn't believe in that.
No, it was funny because I did not agree with what I was saying at all. It was just one of those situations where I started going down a train of thought without thinking of it, and I'm like, wow, I don't agree with anything that I'm saying right now. And like, I was actually in the middle of backtracking whenever Poke's like, hey, I'm just gonna cut all that out. Like, we can't have that in there. I'm like, oh yeah, thank God, because I was like in the middle of being like, actually, you know what? I don't think that. I don't know why I just said that. And then Poke's like, hey, we're just gonna cut all this out. Just never. Don't worry about it. But yeah, like it's that's why I don't like doing live shit like that. Like, I don't know. I feel like if I was doing something live, I feel like I would just be more careful, but it's kind of scary.
Yeah, like, Tyler, imagine if we were doing that, me and you, live, and you wouldn't be able to cut that out.
I mean, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal because, like, ultimately I could just be like, hey, like, I don't even think that. Like, I just said that without thinking, and I just don't agree with that. I don't know why I said. I was just trying to fill dead air, basically, is what was going on. But
well, then in 7 years we can take the clip and we can just cancel you.
I think the biggest thing is character establishment, because with me, I can prove a lot of stuff that I say is just jokes several times, and I could do it real easily. It's like, it seems serious the way that I'm talking like the folks. It's like, no, like most people would figure that out pretty quickly.
Yeah, true.
I thought Tyler was already canceled.
No, Tyler's going to be canceled next. The next podcast.
I get canceled like once a week. It's normally how I get canceled is that I say I haven't seen an anime.
Oh my gosh, that happens to me so badly.
You need to watch or read. You still need to read Black Clover. You need to watch Hitman Reborn.
I've watched most of what's out for Black Clover, but I haven't read any of it.
Tyler, you know how much I hate Black Clover?
He doesn't hate Black Clover.
Read it.
Oh yeah.
You know how much I hate Black Clover. Read it.
Have you seen Ghost in the Shell yet?
Nope.
I'm not.
There you go. He's canceled. There you go. We have it here, folks. He hasn't seen Ghost in the Shell.
There is a live action adaptation for Ghost in the Shell.
Cancel me.
That's easy.
Yeah, that's easy, you know.
He likes Chinibio. All right, cancel him.
Yeah.
Tyler, I will ban you from everything. Okay, Arkel, do you want to read Saxy's comment now?
Oh, yeah.
Zaxi said, yeah, like how I was supposed to be a co-host on Weeb Signal, but they kicked me because they secretly hate me.
Well, I mean, we hate you.
See, they are jealous of your looks. That's the reason why.
Nobody knows what Pokesel looks like. What you mean?
I'm a little curious, like...
That's the reason why.
I'm a little curious why Saxy said we secretly hate him. There's nothing secret about it. Like, how many times do I have to get on Twitter and literally tweet, I hate Saxy, before he just understands that I don't like him?
I need to tweet that out right now. I mean, Saxy's... Okay, I hate...
Saxophone.
Zaxi also said Pokesel hated Black Clover. Keyword hated.
I still hate the anime.
Pokesel just hates Black Clover for clout.
Pokesel just hates.
I hate the anime. It's a bad anime, okay?
But it's not a bad series.
The manga's amazing. Don't get me wrong. Like,
Yeah,
the manga's... I've read 4
that.
manga, and I think it's my second favorite out of the 4. Like,
hey, there you go.
I really need to read it. I've been really lacking on
Hey,
that. I'll probably
Tyler,
just pick up
Voxel is
where I-
cancelled. He's
a
only
lot
read
of
4
a lot
manga.
of my content is centered around Black Clover, and I have great taste. So it's obviously great. you know,
I'll
but-
be honest with you, RTL. I didn't think
RTL,
that
you have
I
crap
didn't think anything specifically of your taste before today, but now that I've learned that you literally don't watch romance at all and you've seen one show and based your entire opinion on an entire genre based off of that one show that wasn't good,
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, shit taste. Yeah, it's over.
I have objectively
Shit
the
taste.
best taste.
So-
I just can't
on the
Voxel on
platform.
Chat,
Twitter.
should Weeb Single watch School Days?
No.
No.
Skull Days, is that the one with the like
No,
the
Tyler, stay the heck away from School Days.
gangster, not
Trust
gangster,
me.
but like the rough edge dude, and he meets that girl, or is that School Rumble?
Don't watch School Days, Tyler. Stay the heck away
I
from
think
it.
that's a gentai, isn't it?
No,
I
No,
think
no,
that
it
might
is
be
not.
School Rumble.
it's just
I think that was on.
It is.
Toonami.
It is the peak romance anime.
Oh wait, I remember you recommended this to me one time actually. I believe I looked it up.
All right. Now, quick question for everybody. So, when it comes to having a podcast, there's only really two that I know of. There's only one that I actually watched vividly, especially in the past. But there's two that is very notable, and those are like the first two anime podcasts that come to mind. So,
trash taste.
Trash Taste Podcast versus Rant Cafe. What we thinking?
I like trash taste,
I don't like either of them.
and I
God
like Rant
damn.
Cafe still a little bit,
Like
a lot.
the only
actually.
podcast I support is GeekEire, and I don't support anything else.
That's
Ouch.
I'm
loyalty
not.
right
It's
there.
not like I'm contractually obligated to say any of these things, but obviously GeekEire is the
The
one.
checks in the mail.
Obviously GeekEire is the one. That you
I
Obviously,
think
yeah.
GeekEire is the best podcast I have ever heard of. And if you want 25% off your Spotify from GeekEire, use code Drew at checkout.
Use code Drew.
I mean, we actually have sponsors lined up. I just
Yeah,
need to record
we
them,
have-
actually.
We have a sponsor actually.
All right,
Like,
we're
we're
gonna
not
need Drew.
joking. Like, I have
Yeah.
sponsors that I need to record, and we have one main one for the podcast as a whole.
Drew will be contacting after this.
Yo, so from what we heard so far, Pokesel says Trash Taste is good and Rant Cafe sucks.
No, I
Drew-
never said Rant
Drew
Cafe sucks. I
said,
love
Drew
Rant
said
Cafe.
both podcasts suck. What's your opinion?
I think
Pete?
Rant Cafe is good.
I'm
love
gonna
Rant
cut
Cafe.
that out. I'm gonna cut that out.
No, he's
Anyway.
lying.
Um,
He's lying. He's backpedaling. At least
Yeah,
I was
he's
honest with
backpedaling.
my-
Oh,
Definitely
I
backpedaling.
listen to actually a lot of anime podcasts. So like for me, like Trash Taste is pretty good, mostly because I'm slightly biased because I've met Grant in person, where he was drunk off his head.
Wait,
keeping
which
it-
one's Grant?
Oh yeah, I
Gigguk.
remember the
Oh,
story.
Gigguk, okay.
Gigguk, I remember.
I
the
met him at a
story.
convention, and he was screaming at a shoe because the shoe wouldn't keep the door open, while
Yes,
his
that's
girlfriend
hilarious.
is screaming from the balcony. I need more I need more cocktails,
Interesting.
and he was drinking cans from the back.
Hey, juicy news about Gigguk, everybody! Spread it around.
I
No,
mean, no one really cares. Like, I don't think anyone
Bro,
would.
this is drama and
Yeah, it's a convention. You know, everyone's gonna get drunk anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. But it just I ended up like drinking a couple of cans with Gigguk at that time. And it,
As an individual who loves Gigguk as like a content creator, like he's my favorite anime YouTuber probably.
so you are attracted to him.
No, I don't. I'm not attracted to him.
He is
That
your
makes
babe.
one
He's your waifu.
Yeah,
No,
he's
that's
my
someone
waifu.
else's wifey, bro.
No, but anyway, as somebody who really likes Gigguk's content, and I think because he carries over his personality that he has in his videos, and he has a very similar personality in in the podcast. I feel like I just really like the Trash Taste podcast.
Yeah,
I feel I really like Connor and Gigguk's anime content.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something else. Yeah,
Uh,
I really
I
like
watch
them.
those sometimes.
I think that I'm biased towards Rant Cafe for a similar reason to you, Sean. But I really like both of them. I like both of them for different reasons. I like Rant Cafe for like the silly, like fun kind of thing, but whereas I like Trash Taste more for the stories. Like I'm there to like hear what these people have to say. Sometimes I feel like
Yeah.
Trash Taste gets pretentious is not the right word. But
you
every
sure?
once in a while, I hear an air of pretentiousness, which, like I
Oh
said,
yeah,
too harsh.
like,
All right.
I hear
Oh,
that. like that.
All of them were like in college when they did the videos when they wasn't getting monetized, and all of a sudden, you know, a lot of them did come from like well-to-do areas, and they all of a sudden got this whole load of fame and a whole load of money all at the same time, and
Okay.
ended up moving to Japan. Like he worked for the BBC, you know, Giga worked for the BBC before he decided to do this. It's like,
God damn.
I hear them say something where I'm like, man, like it's like you've lost all touch of what it was like to be a small YouTuber, and you're like making fun of these people because they do what they have to do to get views because they're not like huge YouTubers, you know?
Oh yeah, like there's been takes the Trash Chase have had that I disagree with.
Yeah, that's the
Now,
only thing that I don't like really about
I'll
them.
say this: I think my biggest problem, like if I had any problem with, the the members of Trash Chase podcast is minus Connor. It feels like Joey and Giguk are really like, to a degree, and this is me talking to my favorite YouTuber. It almost feels like they're out of the community, like Giguk and the Anime Man. When it comes to the
Are you saying because they're so big?
community. Yeah, I feel and they mentioned this on their podcast. They're so big that it feels like they can't it's hard to casually talk to a new
I
person.
see that.
I contact them.
What?
Whereas when it comes to the Rant Cafe, which I like the Rant Cafe a lot, I'm just gonna say that I watched all their podcasts. I enjoy them as a podcast. I like Trash Chase more because they talk about other stuff besides anime. I feel like, but I feel like that's also a pro for Rant Cafe. Anyway, when it comes to Rant Cafe, all those individuals, like minus sorry, for a second I thought Connor was on there. My bad. All those individuals, besides Anime Uproar, I've had the chance to communicate with, like the main three, especially Briggs, which I've been in voice chats with. But like Nuts, I genuinely feel like they're a part of the community, like the anime.
Yeah, it's weird because Nux is so big that you would think there's no possible way he could communicate with anybody, yet he somehow does. I just think that that's so cool. I just feel like Nux and Briggs and Animac, they all like go out of their way to be like, hey, listen, like I know that we're some of the biggest people in the game, but like we're still gonna, you know, chit chat with all of you as well.
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's
But-
Anime Uproar is in the community. It's just I've never had the chance to talk to him.
yeah, I've never talked to the person.
But when it comes, like, I had a conversation with, well, not really a conversation. It was 2 texts, but I've messaged Nux and he's responded to me. I've messaged, I've been in multiple voice calls with Briggs. Never had the chance to communicate with Anime Uproar, but I see him actively communicating with the community.
Yeah, like you always see Anime Uproar like liking people's tweets that are smaller, or like responding to people's tweets that are smaller. I just find that so nice, and I'm not exactly sure if the Trash Taste guys don't do that, or if it's just like.
Jeez.
I feel like it's definitely less, but I feel like they do try. It's difficult for sure. Like, I bet you it's hard for Nux to find these people.
I have no clue how Nux does it because I can't find people that have less than like 500 subscribers. It's like nearly impossible. Try to do it. It's hard.
See, for me, I actually prefer like there's a lot of actually podcasts that I listen to that like none of them have like YouTube personalities, but they're probably some of the best, you know, podcasts out there as far as anime, and just haven't been sort of noticed yet.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, like they're panelists at conventions. Like one of them is hopefully getting him on the podcast once his laptop is fixed. Is Getting the Mecha, and he like breaks down the animation of scenes in like really popular anime like Fire Force and Attack on Titan, and it goes from the animator's perspective. And then there's Anime Rest Stop that's also really good. So it really depends on like personality type of thing.
Signal, like they're just like so underrated, you know, and they're just so good.
All right. So this is gonna be the last topic in hand, and then we're gonna wrap up today's episode of Kickback. Of course, the last topic in hand is what does everybody feel like you need, or what do you feel like is necessary for you to be the best podcast as possible, the best anime podcast as possible? What type of traits, stuff like that?
Yeah, it's got to be down to like hosts that are able to interact well together and have some level of charisma. Like you don't have to be the most charismatic person of all time, but like as long as you can like mesh with your co-host and talk about stuff that you like, then you're good.
Just find the most generic anime podcast and copy whatever they're doing. No, I mean, on a serious note, just write down a script of like the Trash Taste podcast, and then just repeat the literally exact same things.
I love how you said on a serious note and then said another joke.
Right.
Anyway, on the actual serious note, I don't think it requires any real level of equipment. As long as you have a crappy laptop and maybe a microphone that's like $30-$40, you can do a podcast. You just have to have a
like me,
somewhat likable personality, which Pokesel doesn't have because we know that he's a snake. But Tyler more than makes up for. So that's why Weeb Signal is the best anime podcast of all time.
Watch out, Trash.
For me, I think one of the main abilities is to have sort of an open mind, to have sort of conversations with people. That's dealing with people in real life as well as that, because you talk to a lot of big cosplayers and voice actors. You're dealing with them person to person. Sometimes, they'll come to your country. Like I've had, I've showed Veronica Taylor around Dublin. I've had chats with Spike Spencer about his book and met his wife. And, just talking to them on a normal person-to-person basis and developing sort of a good communication and just sort of being inquisitive. Like, I had no idea that Funimation owned, like, a really conservative, anti-LGBT film company until I actually looked into it, and it's still running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Drew.
Sorry. I was going to say one last thing about
go
Tyler.
for it.
I feel like one good thing about me and Tyler is when we talk on the podcast, we listen to each other's points.
Not true. I'm literally always doing something else while you're talking. I don't care what you have to say.
Okay, but like at least Pokesel listens to Tyler's points, even if he views Tyler's opinion as absurd and trash, like his opinion on Chinibio, he still listens to what Tyler has to say about Chinibio, even if it's wrong. But
yeah. And Drew, you got anything else? Jeez.
I think one important thing you need to have is a microphone, because they can't hear your voice without that. So that's
Fair
one
enough.
important thing you need to have.
Fair enough, yeah.
The next thing you need to have is the ability to speak the language you're talking with the other person, because if you don't, then you might have issues with like reading translations or trying to pretend you know the language, like that's kind of important to know.
Also very important, yeah.
Being awake, there are several times where I've fallen asleep during a podcast before, and then you wake up and it's like you have to immediately think of what they're talking about. So the first thing you do is bring up something that's off topic, so that way it seems like you wanted to change the subject.
Drew's a pro.
The next thing is to show your stuff in the middle of stuff, because people don't listen to the end sometimes. So you just.
It sounds like you're working for NPR.
My man
went
on Google and looked up what you should do to have a good podcast, and then just reading down the line. Stay awake. Buy a microphone.
Mainline Monster Energy to stay awake.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh yeah, that's important. You need to be awake, so
you need to be addicted
do that.
to caffeine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, get a crippling caffeine addiction while you're at it.
Hey, coffee is good. Like, quick story. So, I'm gonna say the story after. Anyway, my thing is, yeah, I very much agree with everybody's here's points. I agree with everything. Don't have anything to combat it. Especially if you're a group podcast, I think having people that bounce off each other well, just like I think the Rant Cafe, they're all I think when you're all unique in your own style, like Briggs, he's a Chad, but he's also an anime fan, and he's also pretty like, You know, he's pretty calm. And then you got Nux. He's a memer. He's very vocal. Let's just say that, very vocal. You know, definitely keeps the energy up when it comes to the podcast. You got Animac. You know, very inquisitive. That's definitely something he is. You know, likes to dive deep into it, and he's you know, wants to like he's also pretty chill as well, but he definitely has strong opinions for sure. And all of them bounce off each other despite being very different. So when it comes to a group podcast, I think individuality and cooperation is so key. But even if they're very similar, as long as you can like bounce off each other well. I haven't watched the Trash Taste, so I don't know the people like that, like when it comes to their characters, because I haven't really followed those three YouTubers. But you know, when you got the clout, you got the clout. And even if you're doing it by yourself, you know, be energetic, be charismatic, you know what you're kind of saying, and you know, try to be entertaining. Although entertainment is subjective, do your best because people could tell through effort how well you're doing. So yeah, those are some things when it comes to the anime podcast. And anybody have any final remarks? Nope.
Drew is gonna pick the next terrible anime for me to review. So,
Well, I think we're gonna hold up back on that because we need to finish up Castlevania since we only did the first 2 seasons. So we're gonna go back to that. Then I'll figure out something else for that later.
Also, real quick, speaking of like what they're talking about, organization is also very key in structure. Like, it can be very chaotic if you're not keeping some type of structure through your podcast. Even if you don't, if you have to write it down, there's no problem with that. Just keeping some type of structure and organization when you're planning it. Keep a consistent schedule and try to like keep everybody up to date and informed about what's going on. Also very important. So that's basically it. We'll be back next Saturday. It's around same time, live, and then the podcast will come out, the distributed. You're listening to it probably on Sunday. So, of course, you know, be in tune. I think next week we're probably going to do a tournament bracket because it's time to debate, bro. We got to debate. We love the debates on here. Yeah, we're probably going to debate the best isekai. That's what I'm leaning towards to. The best isekai tournament. I mean, I really like, you know, Log Horizon, Overlord. I like the Reincarnated Slime isekai. I like that one where the guy is super OP, but he's so cautious, the Overly Cautious Hero. So many good isekai out there. But yeah, make sure to check everybody out here. They're all, the Weeb Signal podcast is up and coming, of course. You know, make sure to check them out. Tyler Doe, Pokesol, co-host, of course, and GeekEire and What If Universe.
GeekEire.
I was close enough. GeekEire. Make sure to check them out as well. Their podcast, GeekEire, What If Universe. All of them are good people.
And the only 2 episodes on the Do You Know Animation podcast.
Yeah.
Which that got canceled, unfortunately, but there's a better podcast in its place, in my opinion, with the What If 4 Kids Dumpling podcast coming back.
Yeah. We're about to hit our first
next up. What if 4 Kids did Legend of the Overfiend?
I'll think about that one.
We're about to hit our first milestone on Kickback, so make sure, you know, tell your friends, tell your not your friends, throw it in your enemies' faces, you know, stuff like that. Show your parents.
Yeah, so
be obnoxious about it.
Kickback is so, like, based on what RTL said, it's so bad that you want to show it to your enemies.
Yeah, show it to your enemies. Show it to your enemies. Hey, if you wanna get your boyfriend or girlfriend into anime, turn on Kickback. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this has been Kickback Anime Discussions. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.